co-host, so I'm doing here. Anyway, alright, let me give the introduction. Hello, this is YouTube. I'm introducing this is how I do my videos. Hello, this is YouTube Joseph WM2, YouTube Joseph WM podcast interview. Today I'm joined by planetary scientist Dan Durda. Are you a doctor?
Yeah, I got my PhD way back in 1993.
You're not a medical doctor, of course.
Not a medical doctor, no.
You're in planetary science. I'll call you Dr. Durda. Anyway, also, are you still work? Do you still work for NASA?
Well, I work indirectly for NASA. Most of my grant money comes from NASA.
Indirectly?
I work for a private research company. Well, I work for a private company called Southwest Research Institute, and most of my funding for that position comes through NASA funding.
So how long are you going to be able to stay on here for?
Oh, probably about a good half hour, if that's good enough for you.
Yeah, I don't know if it will last. I don't know if I have enough questions to last that long.
Okay, no worries. Well, yeah, I can. Half an hour is great, and if it's less than that, then we'll do all we can.
Yeah, and then also, what was I going to say? So, do you Dr. Durda, do you know why Mercury and Venus don't have moons?
Well, we don't. I mean, the Earth we think has a moon because we probably went through what's called a giant impact. Some other planetary object that was forming in our part of the solar system slammed into the Earth very early.
Yeah, I know that story, but I believe Venus did have a moon at one point. Did you hear that theory?
Yeah, there's possibilities of that. But you know, once it's kind of hard to explain how you lose a large moon after a while like that.
Yeah,
maybe another planetary encounter.
There's a space and science YouTuber called Anton Petrov. Have you heard of him?
I don't believe I have.
Yeah, he called Venus's moon Vena. He did a video about it. He proposed that idea, and then I think it was for Mother's Day 2017 or something like that. And he thought what happened to Venus's moon is it spiraled in, it got torn apart in Venus's Roche limit. And I'm pretty sure you know what the Roche limit is.
Indeed,
and
the reason we see a lot of debris around Saturn. We have exactly the same issue around Saturn.
That Venus did have a ring system like Saturn, according to him, at one point, and then it faded away. Does that sound like a plausible theory that why Venus doesn't have a moon today?
Well, we have to understand what the reason was for it spiraling in the first place. Once you're in a fairly stable orbit, having that rapid a spiral in the age of the solar system is we'd have to have a good tidal mechanism, some sort of other mechanism to have that happen.
Maybe an impact to Venus.
I'm not sure, if there's any evidence against having that happen, but I don't know that there's any actual good hard evidence for it.
But then should we worry that will happen to Earth's moon?
Well, we know the Earth's moon is moving away from the Earth.
It's far more likely the sun will become a red giant and engulf both of them before Earth's moon becomes an orbit in the sun on its own orbit.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, it's currently moving away from it.
But slow. It's so slow that the sun's going to become a red giant way before it escapes Earth's orbit.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
And then and also, what was I going to say? I'm pretty sure isn't the reason why both Mercury and Venus don't have moons is because the sun's gravity would steal them up. Their hill spheres are too small.
Yeah, in the case of Mercury, that's probably very, very much the case. It probably did go through some sort of large impact early on to strip away most of its crust and outer mantle.
It
was had a satellite, given its eccentric orbit and its closeness to the sun, it's very likely that moon would have been very unstable and perturbed away over time. That could be one. If Mercury ever had a moon to start with, even a small one, that could be a reason we could see one.
Yeah, and then also the thing is back to that video about Anton Petrov's channel. He fought an object about the size of Earth's moon or Io's or Jupiter's moon Io hit Venus. I refer to it as an Earth after the toy company. I'm just making a random name for it and hit Venus. I refer to the object that that hit Mercury as Dynamos after this movie and yogurt company. I know I'm kind of being silly. And then also those was there how many objects hit? How many collisions did Mars have?
Oh gosh, well we can't really count, right? We know that it had to have gone through major impacts. There's no way to know how many.
I'm not talking about asteroids or I'm talking about big protoplanetary.
Oh yeah, big giant impacts. There's one hypothesis of the Borealis Basin in the northern hemisphere.
That's where there was that was the seafloor when Mars was habitable.
Perhaps, yeah. So perhaps at least that one, but there's no way to know. A lot of this evidence is hidden away in the depths of history that's irrecoverable. Once each big impact erases the history of the previous ones before, so there's no real way to know.
These lost world planets, moons, dwarf planets, protoplanets, etc. Once they disappear, they're not going to leave anything like prehistoric animals leave fossils, right?
Correct, yeah. They merge to become part of the planet itself.
Yeah, they disappear basically without a trace.
Exactly.
And then
without a big physical trace, they leave geochemical traces, and that's how we help decipher all this stuff. But yeah, basically, yeah, they're gone. Once you go through that big impact, they're gone.
And why doesn't Mars have a large moon?
Again, it's a pretty small planet. It may not have ever gone through a very big impact like the Earth did. Terrestrial planets just don't form moons the same way giant planets do. So with the exception of giant impacts, there's really not much of a mechanism to make moons around terrestrial planets, other than perhaps captured. We're not even sure exactly where the moons of Mars came from. The prevailing history has always been prevailing thought has always been that they're captured asteroids, but we don't really know that.
But I think Phobos and Deimos were more likely formed from a collision, and then also also what was I going to say? Could Venus have captured could Venus capture asteroids?
Certainly, if you were to get something to pass, you have to have a perturbation that causes the passing object to be captured. You can't just have a flyby, outside the atmosphere, say, without a third body perturbing it to put it into orbit. Now, Venus was this very thick atmosphere. It's entirely likely that a passing asteroid could, pass deep through the atmosphere of Venus, and that's the deceleration.
You mean impact or
that you would need to put something there temporarily? It's a very eccentric orbit. It'd be probably a very unstable orbit, but at least temporarily.
You mean it could?
That might be a mechanism.
Sorry to interrupt. You mean it could fly through the atmosphere without impacting?
Right, exactly. Passing through the upper atmosphere, just enough of a perturbation to temporarily capture an orbit around you.
What's perturbation?
A change to the orbit of the asteroid as it's passing by.
And also, do you know how long Triton's been a moon of Neptune? I know it was originally a dwarf planet like Pluto.
Probably, yes, exactly, and that is exactly the sort of capture mechanism that.
But what was the date it was captured?
Again, we don't know the date, but very likely that sort of thing would have happened very early in the history of the solar system.
So like over 4 billion years
or so.
In the first 700 million years?
Yeah, exactly. The first several hundred million years. By 4 billion years ago, it was probably there. I would
yeah, so I think before Triton, Neptune might have had its own moon system similar in size and mass in composition to Uranus's moons. Probably,
yeah, probably. And then with we think the origin of Triton is in
to capture.
We know that a lot of the exactly a capture, and we know that a lot of the objects out there in the Kuiper Belt are binaries, like Pluto, and some of the other ones. And so it's kind of you've got a binary passing by Neptune, and it get a bit of a slingshot effect during this passage, where the moon or the larger object gets flung off, and the energy that's lost in that process is what allows Triton to actually be captured into orbit around Neptune. So very likely some sort of a binary interaction.
Okay, yeah, that's just the door open and my mom's taking my dog out. Anyway, in case you're wondering what that noise is. Please. Hold on, I have to lock the door. Oh, I have to continue talking while I do this. Do you think? So you're saying that Triton had a binary? You mean like Pluto has Chiron, Triton had its own moon or companion?
Exactly. Or, well, we don't know if Triton was the moon or had a moon. It was probably the very likely scenario is that it was part of a binary system.
It was a dwarf
And
planet.
whether it was the moon or the primary, we don't know. But the end result, of course, is that it ends up getting after it.
What happened? What happened to its partner? Did it get destroyed or ejected into space?
Yeah, it would have been just ejected into its own independent orbit around the sun, and it's probably still out there someplace, unless it had a subsequent impact later on. But very likely, it's out there orbiting too.
But if we found it, could we identify it as Triton's long lost partner?
I doubt it. I don't think there'd be any very significant, characteristic of it that would nail it down. It's, there are
what?
Kuiper Belt objects that I don't think there'd be any way to tell.
They could be as different as the Earth and the Moon are.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I mean, I think we see that in some of the satellite systems. They're not all necessarily identical to each other. So you can have a moon with a very different color and composition than its primary.
And then also, do you think, what was I, alright, now I'm going to ask some questions about you. Do you study exoplanets?
It's not my research. I have a very big interest in them, and I do a lot of artwork associated with them, but I don't do any of my actual research associated with them.
You only focus on solar system objects?
Yeah, I'm primarily a asteroid impacts person, so I deal with asteroids and the evolution of their surfaces and impact craters and things like that.
Yeah, and also, I heard on one of the documentaries I watched, Catastrophe, that you were on, that the narrator said you're a NASA planetary scientist. Were you ever?
Well, I did work at NASA headquarters for a year. I was still a Southwest Research Institute employee at the time, but I was at NASA headquarters.
But you're not anymore. I forget. Going back to
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah, I'm back in Colorado working at Southwest. Yeah.
Also, what was I going to say? Another thing is, I know you also on a lot of the shows I watch, that some of them that came out more recently, like the History Channel show Doomsday 10 Ways to What We Win. You were on a few episodes. And those shows, do you get introduced to the other specialists? I mean, on those, do you know the other people who are on the other scientists that are on the show?
We know some of each other. We don't always interact, but I know Phil Plait personally pretty well. I've met one or two of the other folks on the show.
He's from How the Universe Works. I'd seen that show too.
Yes.
I mean, also, what was I going to say? Do you know Greg Laughlin?
I've not met him, no.
You know about him? Do you?
Oh, of course, yes.
And also, what was I going to say? I remember you on the Doomsday episodes, on the one on the asteroid impact, the one on the rogue planet, and the one on the Earth falling into the sun. This isn't, what I'm about to say isn't to your offense or to any of the specialists, producers, and the narrator, or any of the actors or actresses' offense, but I think the show made it a little, all the episodes, all the end of the world scenarios, they were all pretty dramatic, more dramatic than accurate. I really wish History would do a remake on Doomsday, and also the Universe. I wish they would do. That was another show that I watched that you were on.
Yeah, it's always an interesting balance between getting the science right and keeping it
entertained,
fun enough for a general audience to watch. Yeah, that's always a challenge.
And then also, I also wish they did a remake to Life After People. You weren't on that show. Have you heard of it?
Say that. Which one again?
Life After People. Have you heard of that show?
Oh, Life After People. Yes, I have heard of that one. In fact, I may even remember seeing that one. That was an interesting show.
Yeah, the only those are my three favorite shows on History Channel, 4 including Mega Disasters. Were you on? Oh yeah, you were on one episode of Mega Disasters. It's Doomsday, Mega Disasters, Life After People, in the Universe. Those are my 4 favorite History Channel shows. And then also, what was I gonna say? Do you? I really think that also, do you know if is there any upcoming shows that you're going to be on in the? I mean, documentaries related similar to Doomsday or the Universe?
Well, I don't know. They do come up randomly. I get a phone call out of the blue from a producer, and they describe a show and whether there's something I can do to help with it. And I very often say yes because I love doing these shows. We're looking now still, we're waiting to see if How the Universe Works will be renewed for an 11th season. My fingers are crossed because I love doing that show.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, like history. Have you heard anything new from any producers from History Channel?
No, I'm kind of in a bit of a lull right now, just waiting for more phone calls.
What does lull mean?
Just there's kind of a gap. There's not really much. Haven't gotten any phone calls. No indications of any new shows at the moment.
And then also, what was I gonna say? And then also, do you, yeah, you don't I'm pretty sure you don't really study astrophysics and black holes.
I did, of course, during my schooling, but yeah, I am definitely not current in the latest, all the details.
Yeah,
It's very specialized in this community, so yeah, I'm very specialized in planetary science and in asteroids, and I leave the galaxies and black holes to other people.
And also, like Michio Kaku, you know who he is?
Oh, yes, of course.
And then also, and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yep, I met Neil once during my time at NASA. We brought him in to consult with us for a little bit.
And then, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you know, he was also on some of the episodes of Doomsday with you. Did they introduce you to Alex Filippenko, the astronomer?
Yeah, I know Alex. I've not met him either. No.
You know about him.
Oh yes.
Then how could you be? How will you get? Oh, they don't all record the whole episode of any of those shows at once, right?
That's right. You do it in little snippets. You may film one day here for one little segment, and then the 2 days later you'll go to a different location to film a little bit different. And the other people are filming with their own schedules. It takes a few months to film one of these episodes at various locations with all the different people.
Yeah, I would love to see a remake or a season 2 of Doomsday. Was Doomsday a mini series or a full series?
Gosh, I'm having to think back. Some of these were pretty small. They were more like little mini series, like 2 or 3 episodes.
Doomsday was 10. It was 10 episodes.
No, it was 10. Yeah, okay. It's been a long time, so I can't remember them all.
I'm pretty sure it was a mini series. And then also what was I gonna say? I called the Rogue Planet in Doomsday. Why didn't the show give it a name? Why didn't they give the Rogue Planet the size of Neptune with rings like Saturn? Why didn't they give it a name? They should have done that.
Well, there probably are informal names that various people may pick to use for that, but until the International Astrophysical...
No, I mean this fictional... No, in the show, it was a fictional Rogue Planet that in the third episode of Doomsday, remember?
Well, I mean, it depends on how the producers want to write that. Sure, there are times you could just like, we'll call it this, and they'll give it a name. But of course, that's very informal.
Yeah.
It's just up to how they want to tell the story.
Yeah, but I mean, I know I remember, but I forget what it is. That at the beginning of the show, the astronomers in the story gave it a number, but I forget what catalog number. But right.
They may have. It's been a long time since I've seen that show.
Oh, you were in it actually. I remember.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time.
And then also, did you watch the episodes that you weren't in and the ones you were in?
Oh yeah, I try to watch the whole series and see the whole content. Yeah.
And then, are you proud of all the shows you were in?
Oh yeah, they're a lot of fun. I mean, there are some that I'm more proud of than others, of course, but they're all a lot of fun to be in. I really like working with the production companies, and I think they generally do a pretty darn good job.
And then also, I call the Rogue Planet on Doomsday. This is just me. I call it Duluth Training after the clothing company. Have you heard that company?
That's a good enough name as any. Yeah.
If it was real, my mom thinks the reason why it didn't give a name because in the scenario there's only 24. It gets discovered only 24 hours before it destroys the Earth. And it's pretty. What?
I was gonna say that's a pretty good reason to give it a name, maybe.
Not to give it a name. It only has. Oh, that's why my mom thought it wasn't named when I watched it with her. And have you seen there was another documentary that's End of the World Scenario. This one from National Geographic. Have you seen it? It's called Evacuating Earth.
That one I don't believe I've seen. No.
Have you heard of it?
No, I don't. That doesn't ring a bell.
Check it out sometime. It's the plot is that there's a there's 75 years warning before a neutron star hits Earth, and they have to build space arcs to evacuate the planet and go colonize some Earth-like exoplanets. Do you know what a neutron star is?
Oh yeah, yep. It's a collapsed core of a star about the size of a city.
Yeah, and they're so tiny yet so massive.
Very, very dense.
And then also I think what was I gonna say? I do believe I seriously believe Venus had its own moon at one point. Let me think. Is there anything else I want to say? Do you um do you know the whole history of the Earth, everything up to now?
Well, I don't think anybody knows that, but
No, I mean the story, the basics.
Oh yeah, well the basics from the there's a big gap, in the history of the Earth in terms of a lot of very, very boring billion years.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Yeah, that's during the Precambrian. Do you know the geologic time scale?
Fairly roughly.
Yeah, I'm into science. I'm not just into space science and a little bit of planetary science. Also, I'm into maybe a little earth science, but more so biology and paleontology. And then also, what was I gonna say? Do you know that I know there's a geologic time scale for the Moon, Mars, Mercury, and Venus. Do you know it off the top of your head? I don't.
Those are, I get a little fuzzy on those, right? There's the Noachian and periods like that for Mars, and I'm not familiar with the ones for Venus, but there's a whole series of equivalent time frames for the Moon as well, actually.
And Mercury.
And Mercury, yeah.
But how could they know Mercury if they haven't sent, and Venus if they haven't sent rovers? How could they know the time of this?
Well, the time history is based on like the crater, like epochs of cratering events. You can kind of tell from our knowledge of the cratering history on the Moon, where we do have a chronology, an absolute chronology established, because we brought back the samples from the Moon that tell us, okay, rocks of this age, this crater, came from this crater, and it's of this age, and that sets, based on which craters overlap which other craters.
Is the Moon the most? Sorry.
Relative chronology.
Is the Moon the most familiar and well-known of any celestial object besides Earth?
Absolutely. We know the Moon better than anything else.
Even the Sun?
Understanding most of it. Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, the only information we have from the Sun is remote sensing. I guess, we get particles from the Sun, right, in the solar wind, so we can collect samples from the Sun, so to speak. But yeah, the Moon is absolutely the one object in the solar system we know the most about, and there are still a great many mysteries. It tells you how little we know about the rest of the objects in the solar system.
Yeah,
right?
also,
We've been to the Moon, and we still, as much as we know about the Moon, it's the best known object, and there are still so many mysteries. That's the fun of it all.
Okay, and then also, as I'm gonna say, is planetary science not a branch of astronomy? Is it its own unit or field?
Well, it's a subfield of astronomy. It's become kind of its own field over time. It started as a subfield. I would say today it's pretty much its own separate field. It really is.
It's like Earth science, but on other worlds.
Yeah. I mean, when in the era before we could actually send spacecraft to the planets, the only way to study the planets was through astronomical means.
Telescopes.
It was a subset of astronomy during those eras. But starting around once the space age was born, and starting in the 60s when we actually started sending spacecraft to the planets, it started to evolve to become its own separate field.
And I remember from documentaries from like the universe, how disappointed everyone was that Mars and Venus were uninhabited.
You go from the romantic era of thinking, of these things to the reality of them, and the reality is still very, very interesting. It's maybe disappointing if you're looking for, John Carter on Mars, boats and things like that. But,
who is John Carter?
There's a whole series of literature of science fiction books written a long time ago about a gentleman explorer, and
his name. He's a fictional character.
Yeah, John Carter was the name. You'll want to look that one up. Yeah,
and then also there was always, even before the space age, there was always science fiction stories about space travel, right?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. That's all we have.
And then also Do you think? Oh, is he a distant fictional relative of the president Jimmy Carter?
Oh no, that's a fictional character. Fictional.
I mean, if he's a fictional relative of Jimmy Carter, is what I would say.
I don't know. I don't even know if that would be the case. But.
And then also, what was I gonna say? I think I think NASA needs to stop wasting their money on more moon and Mars missions, robotic ones. I mean, because they sent enough that I think they should only do return samples and rovers to Venus, no more landers and orbiters to Venus, because those are the objects that have been explored the most. And now that money would be better spent instead exploring Mercury, the asteroid belt, and the outer solar system and beyond the solar system. Do you agree?
Well, not really. There's a whole spectrum of things that need to be done, and there's a whole lot of ways to do it. All the robotic missions, whether it's a lander or even a flyby, depending on what they're doing, they serve very useful purposes in themselves. So there's a whole the whole community comes together about once every 10 years and does what's called a decadal.
Yeah, I heard about that on the YouTube. On the YouTube channel Geographics. Have you heard?
The community as a whole kind of decides what we think are the next highest priorities to advance planetary science. And sometimes it's a flyby mission. Even a flyby can cause quite a stir. So it just depends.
What do you mean by stir?
It could be even a flyby, like the New Horizons mission to Pluto, which was a flyby, absolutely revolutionized our knowledge about Pluto, and without that flyby only mission,
and I remember
we'd be still in the dark quite a bit.
And I remember a few years after, 4 years after, about 4.5 years after, it flew by Pluto, and 3.5 actually. It flew by this small Kuiper belt object, Ultima Thule or Arikov. Why did they change the name of it from Ultima Thule to Arikov?
Ultima Thule was a informal name that the team had adopted, and until the International Astronomical Union actually votes on it, it's really not official. And so
I thought I heard something back then about it having to do with Nazism.
That I can't. I don't know about it. I'm not knowledgeable enough to remember what.
I don't remember that. I don't understand how it would. Is what I meant to say. Also, as I gonna say, is Ultima Thule. I mean, is New Horizons going to fly by another object, or is it done flying by objects?
As far as I'm aware, I thought I remembered hearing that they're looking for yet another object. If there's one that can be found that along the flyby path that would allow a flyby, I believe that there is still the possibility of doing that. But as far as I know, we don't have one identified yet.
I wish they did. It won't be Eris or Senna.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't be. I mean, it's going to be a small object that's probably yet to be discovered.
It's going to be like Ultimate, like Arikov.
It would probably be something small like that. That's right. Yes.
But I was shocked to find out that Arikov is 2 spheres. I was shocked. I thought it would. I had no idea before the mission that it was going to be before the flyby. I remember seeing the images on the news. My old house the first time that Arikov. I was shocked. I was excited.
Yeah, we all were. It was an amazing thing. What was even more amazing is it turned out that they weren't even spheres. They're pretty flat, like pancakes.
Oh, it's not a sphere. So I don't think you could call it an asteroid or a comet. It should be a new class of objects. Do you agree?
Well, I think even asteroid and comet is just one big class. We like to classify things into different drawers, but nature doesn't make those distinctions. It just makes whatever it makes.
It's we who make the distinctions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, nature doesn't make those distinctions.
You think asteroid? Are you saying you think asteroid and comet or those terms are arbitrary?
I think it's a continuum. It's a continuum of different compositions. Some are more icy, some are more silicate rich, but I think there was a whole spectrum of objects that were, small planetary building blocks that were built in the beginning of the solar system that ranged in composition, and nature didn't really. It's not like you made asteroids and then you made comets by some completely different mechanism. It just made a whole slew of stuff with a whole range of composition.
That never became planets.
Correct.
And then also, what was I going to say? I think I would rather see NASA send more missions to explore more dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt and beyond Pluto than more Mars rovers. I'm bored of Mars rovers. They could all the stuff that the Mars rovers do. They could wait till astronauts go to Mars for.
Well, and part of that I agree with you. There's, I think things like sample return. I think humans are very, very good at going and looking for things and picking out interesting rocks and doing that for far less expense than doing it with rovers. But rovers do serve their purpose too. So.
And also, I think but I will still encourage other space agencies to do their own missions, even to places that NASA already explored.
Oh, sure,
And
absolutely.
then I would rather. I really can't wait. I really hope at some point in the future they'll do missions to Eris, Sedna, Makemake, Haumea, Orcus, Quaoar, Veruda, etc. Do you think they will at some point?
Oh, sure, someday, sure.
But there's no.
I think all of those will happen at some point.
But there's no missions planned right now.
Not at the moment, no. Those are very distant, very difficult to get to, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the case.
Yeah, when I get a job, I'm 20 right now. I hope in the next I hope by the time the 2023 decadal survey comes out, I'll be astronomer. Could you be an astronomer and do the decadal survey?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
And then also, I hope that I will say I'll put my wish would be to at that point to send the spacecraft to send the spacecraft to fly to orbit the sun in the Kuiper Belt. Do something like Dawn did for the asteroid belt, but the Kuiper Belt,
Right.
Except it's not going to orbit and it's just
object to object. Yep.
It's not going to orbit. What?
That could very well happen someday.
Except for Dawn, it's not going to orbit multiple objects like Dawn did. And was Dawn the only spacecraft that orbited multiple two or more objects?
Let's see. That might be. I'm trying to think back in the history of space exploration. That's probably actually true. I can't think of anything else offhand that has gone to orbit one object and then left and gone to orbit another.
Okay, there's one more thing. Could I ask? Do you have to go? Can I tell you one more? Ask you one more thing.
Sure. One more. Let's do it.
Yeah. I'm really excited. This won't happen until I'm in my 50s. But there's going to be I don't know if this is guaranteed yet. Have you heard of the Breakthrough Starshot project?
Yes, I have.
Is that definite? Is it guaranteed they're going to send us the first spacecrafts to an exoplanet?
Well, I don't know if it's I don't know if you could say guaranteed. Nothing's really guaranteed, but I think it's a great plan. I think you got to start somewhere, and I think that's the kind of mission I would love to see happen.
But I don't know if, not to your offense or to upset you or anything, but I don't know if you'll live to see if you'll still be around. Does that bother you?
I'm good to be an old man. No, you're right. I think I may not see something like that, but I'd like to see it launch. It'd be fun.
Yeah, but it will launch in 20. I'm not offending you, am I? Am I offending you?
Oh, not at all. No.
And then also, it will. I know it will launch in 2036, get to Proxima Centauri in 2056, and in 2060 we'll hopefully have the first close-up images of an exoplanet. That would be very cool. And then also, there'll be 1,000 tiny probes the size of a microchip with a 4-meter or 12-foot sail. And they'll be powered by they'll be released from a rocket and powered by a ground-based array of lasers that will each propel each spacecraft one by one to 20% the speed of light in under 10 minutes. Have you heard all the details yet about those details?
I've heard about it in general. I don't know that I can speak to as much detail as you can.
About Breakthrough Starshot.
Yeah, Breakthrough Starshot. I've heard the general background on it. I think it's a great idea. All the specifics I can't speak to, but
I want to end with asking you, what's your favorite planet in the solar system? If you have a question.
Earth.
What's
Earth, for sure.
What's your favorite moon?
Oh gosh, favorite moon. Well, you know what's funny? The very first thing that popped in my mind when you asked me that was Titan.
Yeah, Titan is very special. It's the only place in this entire solar system other than Earth that has stable surface bodies of liquid.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing place.
And life doesn't necessarily need water to drink. They could be life that drinks, swims, and breathes methane in Titan's lake. Is that possible?
Sure, absolutely. I think having exploring other biochemistries is a very important part of understanding the origin and evolution of life on Earth. So yeah.
And what's your favorite dwarf planet?
Probably Pluto, because we've been there and we've seen it. We know it's an amazing place.
What's your favorite exoplanet?
Gosh. That's a hard one to say. I haven't followed all the details and all the
What system? Mine has to be Kepler 47, because even though there's three gas giants even though there's three gas giants in the system, one of them's about the size of Saturn and is in, I think it's Kepler 47b. No, C. It's in the habitable zone and it might have Earth-like moons. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I've been very fascinated with, is the idea that many of these gas giant planets, even though they themselves may not have life, it's the moons that may be around them that are good places to look for life. I think that's a very fascinating subject.
Unfortunately, probably not in our lifetime. There won't be much exoplanets, spacecrafts going to exoplanets. Probably not in my life.
I agree with that. I think that's for the next generations out. We're busy exploring our own system right now. It's I think we need to take the initial steps. I think the Starshot sort of thing is a great thing to start with, but right now we've got a lot to do right here near home.
And then also, as I was going to say, I think, you know what, I'm going to stop the recording, but can you hold on a minute? I'm going to say goodbye after I wrap up the podcast, my record. You understand?
Yep, you bet.
All right, so this has been YouTube Just WM, YouTube Just WM podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good day. Take care. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Please don't give me any copyright strikes if you heard my mom playing TV at the beginning. I'll take legal action. I always threaten YouTube because that I'm going to sue them or something whenever there's noise from my television in the background. I'm worried that they'll give me a copyright strike for it. You understand?
Yeah.
All right, take care, guys.